Foundation. I'm excited to bring you a special video update. As folks know, tomorrow is a very important day. The General Assembly will be reconvening for the two final days of the legislative session. And if folks have been hopefully following and engaging with us, we will be hosting tomorrow at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, 11 o'clock Eastern, in the Capitol Rotunda. We're going to be hosting a rally and press conference in support of SB 150 with legislators and pro-family leaders and parents from across the state. This is specifically to encourage legislators to override the governor's very disappointing veto of SB 150. And as most folks probably know, SB 150 is an important bill that protects parental rights in the context of education, protects the privacy and safety of our students in intimate facilities, but it also, very importantly, has the Help Not Harm or Do No Harm Act as a part of it. And that's the important piece of legislation to protect our children from harmful so-called gender transition interventions that are mutilating and harming our children for life. And so I'm excited today to have Walt Heyer with me. Walt's going to be speaking and sharing his testimony at the Capitol at the event tomorrow. But I have gotten to interact and know Walt a little bit these last few years, including going back to when I used to work for the Partnered Family Policy Council in Texas. Walt is one of the most profound voices and testimonies on the issue of so-called gender transition. Folks may know Walt has written several books on the topic and also runs the website sexchangeregret.com, which has just done tremendous work to help folks that have gone down this path get some counseling and get exposed to some truth as it relates to this topic. So I'm really excited to have Walt with us here today, and we just wanted to record a little video prior to tomorrow. Encourage folks to join us tomorrow at the Capitol if they can, but to just allow Walt an opportunity, if you haven't heard, for him to just share his personal story and testimony with us today. Yeah. Walt, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it was 40 years ago in April, this year it'll be 40 years ago, that I underwent the so-called gender reassignment surgery in Trinidad, Colorado, under Dr. Stanley Biber, who performed some 5,000 of those surgeries. What led up to that was I started cross-dressing as a young boy and began to believe that I was born in the wrong body, that my grandmother was affirming me and telling me how cute I was. She made me a purple chiffon dress. It planted the seed, that indoctrination, and that was a long time ago. And so after I went through the surgery and lived as Laura Jensen for 8 years, I came to that point where I started studying psychology at UC Santa Cruz, and I realized that people who identify as transgender have some underlying comorbid disorder that hasn't been discussed. In fact, what I found out in my own experience when I went in and talked to the gender therapist, he didn't want to know about my history. The only thing he wanted to do is make sure that I got hormones and got a letter for surgery. And he himself, Dr. Walker, actually wrote the standards of care that's in process today called WPATH. He was the author of those standards. So he wasn't some flaky gender therapist. He was world-renowned gender therapist. And so I followed his direction and realized that at the end of 8 years, boy, this is not good. And I realized that there's something going on in me. And when I was a child, that issue about cross-dressing actually became harmful to me. Just identifying as a kid and cross-dressing for many, many years, all the way up until I had the surgery 40 years ago. And so when I began to get proper psychotherapy, I was able to walk out of this process. I ended up getting on my knees to the Lord Jesus Christ and praying to him, and the Lord came to me in prayer, redeemed and restored my life, so I would come out and speak to people and try to prevent others, whether young or old, from going through this procedure. And that's why I started the website Sex Change Regret, and all of you really need to jump and look at that. Sexchangeregret.com is chock full of information. I have worked with thousands of individuals who regret having done this. Thousands of individuals. I get emails every week from people all over the world who regret it, and I've worked with them. They're now detransitioning. There's many, many detransitioners who wish they never got involved in it. And what I realized today is the vast majority of these people who take the hormones and have the surgery, it isn't a lifetime solution. It's only a temporary issue. And then they come back and say, can somebody help me detransition? So we need to stop them from having the hormones. I'm so glad Kentucky has jumped on it. So thank you, and very much all of you. Jump in there and let's override that veto.
Absolutely. Well, Walt, as I've shared with folks and just letting folks know that you're going to be coming in and sharing your testimony, on a spiritual, on a psychological level, I think you probably have an understanding of this issue that may be unsurpassed. But let's just, as we talk about the legislative side of things and the heart and desire to want to make sure that children are not indoctrinated and pushed down a path that, as you have shared, is just harmful for any child to start going down this path. Talk to us a little bit about, I know you've been in a number of different states. You've testified in different states. Why is it so important that Kentucky and any other state, really, and we're seeing this across the world, take a definitive action to say, we are not going to allow children to go down this path, period. And so because we recognize that it's harmful for kids, and it is a duty, a responsibility of government to step in and protect children. Why is that so important? Because
they will regret it. That's why my website I have over 10,000 emails in my inbox from people over the years. The website Sex Change Regret has had well over 2 million views. People continue to think that this is the solution to their problems. When they go through these procedures, they find out usually between 5 and 12 years is when people end up regretting it and want to detransition. I'm working with a man right now that 30 years after having surgery, he said it's taken him 10 years to admit that he needed the help. I've had people 3 weeks after surgery all the way up to 40 years after the surgery. So we need to understand, we need to protect them from something that they're going to regret. They can cause them, their bodies, great harm. It will prevent them, a boy, from being able to be a father because he won't be able to produce sperm, and a girl from being able to be a mother because of the damage that's done with any of these procedures that they're doing. So it really affects their ability to be reproductive, be a husband or a wife, and that's what we need to protect them from. We know the brain isn't developed until it's 25. Let's give them a chance and not harm them before the time that they realize the regrettable outcome of going through this. Protect them, you'll do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, just to remind folks again, at our website at KentuckyFamily.org, folks, right on the front page, or if you go to KentuckyFamily.org/SB150, you can take action right now and send a message to your state House and state Senate member, as well as leadership in both chambers, encouraging them to do the right thing and override this veto. Walt, in the few minutes we have left in this video, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about some of the attacks and really outright lies and deceptions that are swirling around on this issue, and in some ways in specific to efforts like we're trying to do in Kentucky to pass legislation to address this issue. So, and you've addressed a little bit of this, but one of the things that we hear most prominently, we're hearing it drumbeat in the media from LGBT advocates and even from our governor when he vetoed this bill, is that these kinds of efforts are going to, is actually causing children to go down a path of maybe taking their life or taking their life. We've actually heard the language, these kinds of bills will lead to the deaths of children. I find that just frankly appalling and shameful. But talk to us about what the reality is in terms of how we can help children that are walking down this path.
Yeah, and the children are 19 times more likely to die from suicide if they take the hormone blockers, take the hormones, and have surgery. We are increasing their possibility of having suicide ideation by putting them down this path. If we prevent them, which studies have shown that if we prevent them from hormone blockers, hormones, and surgery, that they will grow out of this ideology by the time they mature in their 20s. So we're protecting them from suicide. We're not actually indoctrinating them to the point where they're going to suicide.
Yeah. So on that topic, because one of the other arguments that we've heard is that we just need to delay puberty for kids. Maybe we're not supporting. We understand maybe surgeries are harmful, but why is it not okay to just allow children to go on puberty blockers to delay their puberty so that they can have time to determine for themselves what gender they are? That's another argument that we've heard quite a bit.
Puberty blockers are dangerous. Puberty blockers actually cause brain damage, bones don't generate properly and develop properly. We're interrupting their development. We're actually beginning to destroy the way that they would naturally develop. We're impeding that, and the children will suffer the rest of their life from this. So every statement they make about if you don't let them have surgery, they'll commit suicide, is the opposite is true. If you do, they're more likely to suicide. The hormone blockers are very dangerous. The hormones are dangerous. Surgery is obviously dangerous. And so this is why it's so important to protect these children from having all these harmful procedures.
Yeah. So one final question, thought, and I know you have been passionate about this, is it just relates to the deception of the terminology and the co-opting of language even.
Yeah.
You know, I have said, and others have said, we hear this term gender affirming care.
Yeah.
That's what the media is saying. We're banning gender affirming care. The way I view it is that we are actually protecting kids because we recognize that the affirming, loving thing to do is to encourage a child to walk in the reality of who God created them to be, and that actually gender affirming care is lovingly encouraging a child to get counseling, some of the things you talked about, to affirm the reality of who they are. But talk to us just a little bit about the harm of even buying into the premise that underlies this entire ideological worldview that's being pushed on our kids.
What I realize in working with the thousands of people I've working with, that whether they're young, whether they're 10, 12, 14, 15, or 70 years old, is I realize that when we tell them that they can change their gender, what we are is we're devaluing them as a human being. We're saying, you're really not who you are. That automatically starts this whole depressive process. Then when we introduce hormone blockers or hormones or surgery, then we are completely destroying who they are. They're not able to perform as a man or deliver babies as girls. And so all these issues that we're struggling with in trying to protect children are so important. Don't let the big rainbow cloud ruin these kids' lives. We're actually saving their life and protecting them from regret down the road. And so do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, Walt, I really appreciate you taking the time just to connect with us and have a conversation. Looking forward to tomorrow and the opportunity we have, praying the Lord's blessing over the gathering, that we would honor him and be able to proclaim truth and advocate for, as we say, God-honoring policy that is honoring to the Lord, and we know will be to the benefit of all people. So again, encourage folks to join us at the Kentucky Capitol if you can. Also, tomorrow's going to be a very important day to be actively engaged, even if you can't join us. Be praying, be engaging at our website at kentuckyfamily.org. Like I said, Walt will be there, and I just have to mention some of the other bold legislators that had a hand in this bill that will be with us, including Representative Jennifer Decker, who was the author of the Do Not Harm piece of this legislation, Representative Shane Baker, Representative Bill Wesley, Representative Josh Callaway, Senator Lindsey Tishner will be with us, Senator Max Wise, who was the overall author on Senate Bill 150, and many others. And we're looking forward to just an important day and important effort. I hope you'll join us. Thank you again, Walt.
Yeah,
I look forward to what you have to say tomorrow, and we will continue to keep folks engaged as we move towards the conclusion of this legislative session. Thank you for engaging with us, and stay tuned for more updates.
Stand firm.